Today, we look at the big dig as area residents continue to shovel their sidewalks and driveways and cars from under huge amounts of snow. Joining us, welcome inside Studio B on this Monday in the nation's capital. We have a very good show lined up for you today. As always, it is nice to have you here. This winter has been one for the record books, and Mother Nature, it seems, is not done with us yet. More snow is on the way. We're tracking the storm for you with frequent updates available on the air and online at news8.net. Today, we look at the big dig as area residents continue to shovel their sidewalks and driveways and cars from under huge amounts of snow. Joining us, Kwame Brown. He's an at-large member of the D.C. Council, chairman of the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, and it's good to have you here. Welcome back, and thanks very much for your time. Also with us, Lon Anderson. He's director of media and government relations for AAA of the Mid-Atlantic region. Good to have you here with us, Lon, as well. Lon, let me begin with you. You've been around the region over the last 48 to 72 hours. You've been downtown. You've been in the burbs. You've been in this town a long time, so you've seen snowstorms, past. What's your assessment of this time?
Well, fortunately it happened over a weekend. I think that made a lot of difference. We see the governments are getting on top of it, but we're all impatient. We all want to be out, and unfortunately, no matter what area you live in, whether it's D.C., Montgomery County, Prince George's County, or Virginia, if you're back in the subdivisions, you may have another day or so before you're out from this storm, and that's the problem. Because if you don't get dug out by noon tomorrow, as we all know, you can get trumped again.
Do you worry about people getting cabin fever or the pressures of the work world impacting folk to the point where they venture out before they should?
Oh, absolutely. I think that happened this time. I think there were people out there who should not have been out there. And we've got to remember that's two problems. One, it's not safe to be out if you're out while the roads are in terrible condition. And two, by being on the roads, you're delaying the work that the local governments need to do to clear the roads.
Kwame Brown, from what you've seen firsthand and from what your constituents are telling you, and you are an at-large member of the council, so I'm presuming you hear from people in all 8 wards and all corners of the city. What's your assessment of efforts to restore safety? I mean, to get streets and sidewalks, et cetera, clear?
Well, first, Bruce, we have to thank those that are out there, crews that have been working around the clock, that are out there in the trucks, that have really been trying to get around motorists that are there, cars that have been stuck, those that residents that are clearly becoming impatient, but at the same time, they do know this is one of the largest snowstorms we've seen. And given that, to get it out within, 12 hours is, somewhat impossible. The key is that people just want to make sure that people actually care and that the government is trying. And I think that's the key message to get out there, and to stay off the roads. I think one thing that was mentioned earlier is that you see, I've experienced several plows that were trying to go up a hill or down the street, but then you have people parked in the street, which makes it very, unsafe for them to either try to get by or, quite frankly, they get stuck. And it takes them, I've seen a truck get stuck for 15, 20 minutes trying to get out.
Because someone who ventured out, couldn't get where they were trying to go, ended up stuck, and then the truck comes along.
Exactly. That's one instance. The other one where someone was just parked in front of their house while they were shoveling out their driveway. And I think that, what they need to understand, in order for the trucks to get down the streets, we have to do everything we can as residents to make sure our streets are open and clear. And I think that's extremely important. But people are quite frankly, cabin fever is synced in. I was 2 nights ago down on 14th and you just saw people everywhere walking around.
Right.
It was beautiful to see that in the District of Columbia. As a native Washingtonian, I remember when we used to get snow like this quite frequently in the 80s and 90s.
And we had, what, 2,000 people plus turn out for a snowball fight?
Snowball fight.
Oh, my gosh.
Suddenly we're the snowball fight capital of America, it seems. We're getting good at this, snow thing. Well, the News Channel 8 viewing area runs from Frederick County all the way down to southern Maryland. We've got all of Northern Virginia covered. We're on in the District of Columbia as well. And regardless of where you live or work, we're curious to have your snow story. What's it like in your subdivision? Have plows come down your street? Have you seen acts of kindness, acts of stupidity? We want your snow stories. Afternoon viewers, join us by calling 703-387-1020. As always, we look forward to your calls. We'll go to the phones as your questions and comments come in. Lon Anderson of AAA is here. Kwame Brown, at-large member of the D.C. City Council, is here. He's also just begun a term as chairman of the Metropolitan Washington Washington Council of Governments, COG. So join us today. We look forward to talking with you at 703-387-1020. We've had terrible, speaking historically, we've had horrible snow removal efforts in the District of Columbia going back, many decades. We've had quite good efforts and cleanup as well. Grade, on a scale of what's humanly possible, not wave your wand and it's gone, because that's not happening in the real world, but against a reasonable standard. Councilman Brown, grade these efforts of the last 72 hours.
Well, let me just say that I think that the last couple of years we haven't had this major snowstorm. I think the Tony Williams administration did a phenomenal job actually trying to get better equipment in place when the city had surpluses in order to get our equipment up to speed, and the results show right now. So I think Gabe Klein and the folks at the Public Works are doing a phenomenal job, at least responding. The main roads look very clean. I think some of the side roads is some frustrations because residents, when they see a plow come down the street, they want to see the plow down. If they see the plow up, sometimes they don't understand why the plow is up and the plow is down. And that's quite frankly, that's understandable. It's been the last 48 hours, and the city has done a phenomenal job of trying to make sure that the main streets are clean, but the side streets really need work. And for those streets, to be quite honest with you, that have not been, one plow's gone down the street yet, that is something that still needs to be looked at.
Lon, you've been downtown, you've been on some of the major arterial roads within the District of Columbia, you've been on main roads in Maryland, you've been in subdivision areas. Sure. Grade it all for us. Take some time, tell us what you've seen, your assessment.
Well, we haven't done a very good job of hitting the neighborhoods in Montgomery County where I'm most familiar. I was surprised, though. My road was hit early, and when I went walking yesterday, I found out my road was the only one that had been hit, that it had been cleared. And when I left this morning, I noticed that many of my neighbors going down the other roads close to me, they had dug out their driveways, but the road still had 2.5 feet of snow in it. So, the major roads I traveled in Montgomery County, 16th Street, Georgia Avenue, were surprisingly clear. I did, and for whatever reason, when I crossed the district line on 16th Street in D.C., we went down to one lane, and it was really what Bob Marlborough calls a washboard kind of deal, where you weren't seeing a lot of pavement, you were rattling around. On the other hand, Wilson Boulevard outside here, still really rough. I mean, and that certainly is a major thoroughfare in Northern Virginia.
And as many people know, Arlington County does its road maintenance, snow removal. VDOT handles the rest of Northern Virginia, so for better or for worse, that's the arrangement. And I guess for folks who have a frustration or a complaint or a compliment to pass along, they should know, and probably do know, who does what in Northern Virginia.
Sure. But obviously, I mean, I've heard Joan Morris of VDOT say that they've got over 7,000 miles of suburban roads just in Northern Virginia. So we're asking a lot. We're all impatient. We've got cabin fever. But, we're not an area that gets heavy snows. We don't have the equipment that a Michigan or Minnesota and a Maine have, to do this. So, I think at this point it's probably a B for the region. I think that we're certainly I can point to areas where I think we ought to be doing better, but the challenge is huge.
Kwame Brown, we saw a couple of interesting things yesterday. You put out a press release late in the afternoon suggesting that the mayor keep the non-essential government employees, District of Columbia government employees, home. Why? So the plows could do their job, and the fewer people out there, the better. That's the rationale. And so talk about that, but also what really got people talking, and in some cases screaming, was the schools. The chancellor and the mayor said schools open, 2-hour delay, and within a relatively short period of time, they flipped, they did a 180. They decided to keep the schools closed. Comment on that first.
Well, I want to thank the mayor and the chancellor for changing their minds. I sent a press statement out early, about 11 o'clock a.m., because saying that evening, saying that I think that the government should be closed, only essential personnel. Clearly the schools, as a father with 2 small children in D.C. public schools, and there's someone who's been riding around, clearly you just see the unpaved sideways at the schools, you see the side roads leading up to the schools God bless anyone trying to get up and down those roads. It's just very unsafe, and I believe that safety comes first, and that we need to show that we have compassion and we actually care. Yeah, we want to be the tough DC, but not in a way in which it's going to put our children, our teachers, our principals, or our cross guards, or